You're listening to Three Kitchens, a member of the Alberta Podcast Network. Locally grown, community supported. Join your hosts, Aaron Walker, Sarah Somasundaram, and Heather Dyer, to talk all about home cooking. Hey everybody, we have a podcast recommendation for you, our fellow APN member Mess Hall podcast. Join hosts Avery and Lena as they sample, rate, and talk about fun food. I like this podcast, obviously because they talk about food, but they also throw in some history and fun facts about each episode's food theme. I listened the other day to one about marshmallows. Remember those marshmallow candies in the shape of strawberries? Turns out Lena's a huge fan. I'm not sure I was. Anyway, they're a married couple, so you know there'll be some disagreements and fun ridicule in their banter, and there absolutely is. So check them out. You can find Mess Hall Podcast wherever you listen, and you'll also find them at messhallpodcast.podbean.com. For more fun and informative shows, go to albertapodcastnetwork.com. All right, welcome to this episode of Three Kitchens podcast. I'm Heather Dyer. I'm here with my co-host, Sarah Somasundaram. Hi, Sarah.
Hello.
And Aaron Walker. Hello, Aaron.
Hello.
And today we have a special guest here with us. Dennis Littley is a retired chef and culinary instructor. Currently, you can find him on his blog at askchefdennis.com. where he's on a mission to show people at home that creating delicious restaurant quality meals is not as hard as it seems. Hi, Dennis. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you. Thanks for having me here today. I'm really happy to be with you all.
Thank you. We're really excited about it.
Yeah.
Did I miss anything in that little introduction?
No, that's plenty. You know, we could go on for a while, but that would just be like ego. You know, it's fine.
Hey, we can make this the Dennis show if you want. It could be. I mean,
no, there was a day, but now I'm as my wife says, the kinder, gentler Chef Dennis. You know, I just don't.
It's nice to think that maybe we all kind of will relax when we hit like retirement, where we can act. That's what it's supposed to be, right?
It's supposed to be retirement, but I actually work more now than I did.
Oh, do you?
When I was a chef. It's not as physically demanding,
Right.
but time-wise, you know, I'll still spend 10 to 12 hours a day working. You know, people think, oh, it's like opening a restaurant. People think, oh, I'm going to make so much money. It's going to be wonderful. And, you know, people go into blogging thinking, oh, I'm going to be the next pioneer woman and I'm going to be rich. And, you know, it doesn't work out that way.
No, we call this our hardcore hobby because it's not really
it's fun, but it's a lot of work.
But it's so much work. Yeah.
That's the key. And I think that's what everybody needs to take away, finding something that's fun, that you don't dread getting up every morning doing. And, you know, and for the most of my career as a chef, I didn't feel that way. You know, towards the end, with all the injuries I had, and I was just tired of politics, you know, and no matter where you are, politics work into work.
Yeah,
and I was just tired of it. And I was ready when we moved, but then I was bored. And then I started blogging more and then started getting into social media more. And then the next thing you know, it's like, oh, I thought I was retired.
Well, we really love this passion that you have to help cooks at home elevate their everyday meals. So what inspired you to bring these restaurant style recipes to home cooks?
Well, you know, I always enjoyed cooking and sharing what I made. And in the beginning, you know, the time when chefs didn't share anything, everything was proprietary. And then I started teaching the culinary course. And I think that's what really sparked the interest in spreading the word, spreading the gospel of food. And it was important to me then to make sure I didn't leave anything out of a recipe, that I gave them all the tools they needed to get it as close as humanly possible to something I would make. Nowadays, when you ask a chef, if you go out to eat and you ask a chef for the recipe, 9 times out of 10, they're going to give it to you because they know you're never going to recreate it quite as well.
Right.
And it's not for lack of skill, but it's just where you source your ingredients. So part of the whole journey in teaching people isn't just about the skill set. It's about sourcing ingredients, number one. Number two, you know, a little bit of equipment. And number three is having passion in the kitchen. And that comes down to cooking what you like to eat, not cooking what someone else likes to eat.
Oh, interesting. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's kind of how I structured things when I decided to bring this message forward and try and help people, because a lot of the things that I take for granted, and people will write to me and they'll ask me questions, and you have to go back to that. There is no stupid question. Well, there are, but but when it comes to skills that you necessarily don't have, there aren't. And I have to take it, I'll go, oh my God, why would they? And then I say, oh yeah, I got to remember, not everybody just doesn't intuitively know this. Take a deep breath, and then I'll try to answer the question as best as possible. And that's kind of what made me become Ask Chef Dennis. I started that early on, and someone said, you should be Ask Chef Dennis. I'm like, really? So it kind of stuck. It's my brand, and it's helped along the way.
Mm-hmm. Going with that blog, what are some of the most common questions you get from your followers?
They vary. A lot of times it's as simple as they don't quite understand an instruction. And a lot of times it's my fault. I haven't explained it clearly enough, which is good. But it's usually like, something didn't go right, and they want to know what they did wrong, and that's a really hard question to answer because I wasn't there.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you have to kind of narrow it down, like tiramisu is my biggest post ever. It's always been, I get letters from people worldwide about it. And it's not complicated, but if you're a novice and you're not sure what you're doing, it can just be a little tricky. So, I just had someone write me that their eggs and sugar curdled. Why did they curdle? I said, well, you had over too much heat. That was pretty easy. Can I use them? I said, no, just throw them out. I'm sorry, throw them out and start again, because there's not a whole lot you can do with that mess at that point. There might be something. I'll have to Google what can I do with curdled eggs and sugar, because there might be something you can make out of it, that it won't matter. Those are the most common. Is I made a mistake along the way. Do you have any idea what I did wrong? It's not like it, and I have so many different types of recipes. It's not like it's related to just one thing. So over Thanksgiving in the US, that was like a crazy time for me 2 years ago. This year wasn't as bad, but people panicking with their turkeys day of. So I pretty much had to sit at the computer the day before and just try and help people, because they're in real time situations and they're panicking. And, like when you get it typed 3 times the question, that they're really in trouble. So, days like that, I would try to make myself available, to help.
That's nice.
This is so interesting compared to, when all you have is a cookbook.
Oh, yeah.
And you follow a recipe and something curdles and goes, it's like, well, I can't call Julia Child and ask her. Like, I mean, not even just because she's no longer living, but because at the time, like if all you were cooking from was that, you didn't have access to the person who wrote the recipe. No. So having a blog, it's like you were there 24/7.
It's amazing to get instant feedback like that.
Yeah.
And I do try to answer as often as I can in real time. Sometimes it just doesn't happen, or sometimes I get a question that stumps me and I have to think about it for a while, because, or people will ask me how to make something, a lot of, how can I translate your recipe into gluten-free, or how can I, I can't have dairy, I can't have nuts. Well, and I'm like, I don't write those kind of recipes. I could do it. It's going to take some time. And I honestly don't have that kind of time to dedicate. There's a lot of people out there that do that kind of stuff and are really, really good at it. And I'll then try and recommend some of my friends that do that, because I have friends across all different types of blogs. But, I feel bad not being able to answer them. And on the other note, I'm not their personal chef.
Yeah.
I want to be helpful, but, I only have so much time, and I usually get paid a lot for that. So
we find that a lot because we often do modify what we're doing.
Yeah.
We have picky kids, or we have intolerances ourselves, or, so trying to adjust a recipe to, like, for me, it's dairy is an issue. So I'm always like, what could the dairy alternative be? And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
And there are so many new alternatives now. That things have gotten a lot easier. And sometimes I know, like, I use coconut oil. I have used cashew milk and almond milk and oat milk. So I kind of have an idea. The first time I tasted Earth Balance, I went, oh my God, this tastes like butter. I was like shocked, So I mean, I have used some different things and I have an idea, but when it gets into baking, a lot of times it's science. And someone asked me about changing the flours out in my artisan bread. And I said, that artisan flour you bought has an 18% protein count. I says, the flour I'm using has 11%.
That's going to change it.
Yeah, it's going to change the chemical structure. That was one of the things I learned about with gluten-free baking was when you use different flours, you got to get them to add up to that right percentage for what you're changing. And once that light bulb went off, I went, oh my God, this one woman, I went to a seminar and that's all she did was gluten-free. And she's saying that and says, well, hell, that makes a lot of sense. So if you're using almond flour, it's 7.2 and sorghum flour or whatever it is. And then you got to get it to balance out with the weights of each type of flour to average.
So you get to do chemistry, molecular chemistry.
That was never my strong point. I like to make things blow up, but other than that,
not in the kitchen. Maybe.
No, never in the kitchen. Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting. I'd never heard that.
Yeah,
substituting
that's a good tip.
You just blew my mind.
I know every now and then you get these light bulb moments and you go, like someone posted one yesterday and it was a light bulb moment for me. It says that the numbers on your toaster dial are not degrees of darkness, they are minutes. And I went, what?
Is that true for every toaster?
It is.
Well, maybe not.
Something I just learned too.
I didn't know that.
Maybe not the metric toasters. I don't know. In Canada,
no
metric
idea.
Minutes.
So that was like another. You get these mind blowing moments sometimes that you just can't believe things. That was like, well, that makes it a little easier to understand if I was going to do something. But they make all these ready to use gluten free flours now that those are what I usually use when I make something gluten free, and it's like no brainer. It's cup for cup.
So cool. I was going to ask, like with the baking and everything, we notice a lot because we're higher up. Where we are, that plays into all of our baking. Yeah. It's amazing how much of a difference it makes, and we are constantly learning and adjusting for that.
Yeah, that's something I have never experienced because I've always lived in the same kind of altitude. I went from Texas to New Jersey to Florida, and I've only visited high altitude places a couple of times, and I've never cooked in them when I was there. First time I did in Utah, I thought I was dying because I'm walking, I'm going, I can't breathe. And then someone goes, dummy, you're at altitude. I'm like, oh, thank God. But, having to cook that way, I know it affects time and temperature. And that is really, again, chemistry, science just blows my mind that it comes into that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess oven and sauteing would take a different amount of time too, again, just because the heat would react differently.
Yeah, we find anytime you cook a roast or a chicken, we always discuss these recipes. And then when we get to the time, we're always like, we'll just add to it and check it. You have to be able to cook to doneness and know when you want to pull it out, because whatever time they've recommended, almost 9 times out of 10 will never work.
That's why almost in every post that I roast something, I recommend getting an oven thermometer, one of those probe ones they make now.
Mm-hmm.
And the probe goes in it, and it sits out, the wire comes out, and you have a little monitor that tells you what temperature you can set it for, whatever doneness you want. That's really been a big help, because then you don't have to constantly monitor and worry to keep opening the oven and checking the temperature, which lets heat out, which readjusts, and then it throws the whole cooking scheme off. So I think that's something, especially at altitude, that I would definitely get.
Good tip.
Yeah, I think Heather has one of those, and it seems to be.
Yeah, it saves me. And also, sometimes you're cooking something, maybe you have something in the oven that you can't see. You can't see it. Like just before Christmas, Sarah and I both, we made beef Wellington, and that's in pastry. You can't see the meat, and you can't you can't see what it's doing in there. So the thermometer is like a lifesaver.
Oh, absolutely. Especially, I'll roast some bigger pieces of meat too. So, and now my wife has to have everything like well done, no signs of life at all. And I like mine the cowboy way, which is just, pull its horns off, wipe its butt, and run it across the grill.
So how do you manage that for the two of you?
Well, if it's a big enough piece of meat, I end up getting it medium rare, which I can eat and tolerate, for her to get it well done. But she gets the ends. And then sometimes I will just cut the ends off, throw them in a saute pan with some au jus, and let them finish cooking a little bit more.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Hi there, I'm Brendan, a certified home inspector with Rumi. Do you have a problem that needs fixing? Whether it's big or small, inside or outside, let me help you find out what's really going on. You can call me by phone, or we can take a look together over video chat. Visit rumi.ca, that's RUMI.ca, and go to Ask a Home Inspector to book your appointment with me today.
The pandemic has had me source food a lot differently. I mean, as a chef, I always had people that would just come to me and I knew I was buying good quality, or I could specify what kind of quality I wanted. I would find the purveyors that really sold the upper level of products. Grocery store shopping can be like a crapshoot, especially when it comes to meats, because you don't always know the age of them, the quality of them.
No.
Sometimes they cut them there. Sometimes they're just shipped in. And the origin, where are they from? Were they grass-fed? Were they, like we have a big chain called Publix, and they have this Greenway product that's supposed to be organic or better. But I asked them about the meat. Says, what makes it better? Well, it's from Florida. I said, well, that can't just be it.
Yeah.
What else do you do? What else makes it special? Why is it better? So I've started, there's a lot of good meat companies out there, and I've started sourcing it. And one I use in particular, and again, I don't know if they deliver to Canada or not, is Crowd Cow. As long as you pack $100 worth of products in there, it's free delivery for me. And I usually get it in like 2 days. And I know it's grass-fed, but it's all pasture raised, and they're animals that are allowed to be animals.
Right.
Right.
Like
Okay.
free range.
Yeah. But yeah, they're allowed to have a little joy in their life before we eat them.
Exactly.
And the pork industry is just horrible. And that was the first thing I did, was I went to like farm raised pork, where I knew that they were allowed to be pigs, because pigs are as smart as dogs. So that's kind of, you don't want to treat them that way. But, that's again, finding there's sources out there that you can find and get better quality. And honestly, it might be a little more expensive, but I know in the States, we've got this mentality that more is better. So we tend to overeat protein. It was always, let's fill the plate with protein, where it should just be basically like 1/3 of the plate, and the other 2/3 should be vegetables. We've really perverted the system of how we eat, and we eat way too much protein.
Huh. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think we're the same.
So buy the good stuff and eat less of it.
Yeah. That's basically it. Have a nice starch. It's going to help fill you up. A good vegetable with some color on your plate. And it's like our grandmothers always told us, it's the colorful vegetables that are the best for you, and then not cooking them to death so you get every last nutrient out of it, make it
So you said the most common recipe was tiramisu on your blog.
Well, it's the most popular. Yeah.
The most popular one. Yeah. And another one that you said, another few popular ones are chicken marsala and turkey. But what is a recipe on your blog that you would like people to check out that maybe is not as popular?
I think one of the things that people have a hard time cooking are seafood.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As a restaurant chef on the East Coast with access to lots of really fresh seafood, I had a great time with it. If you wanted something simple like a fruta de mar, which is a nice broth, garlic aioli kind of sauce with clams and mussels and shrimp, any kind of a steak fish. And again, fish, you almost need to cook, like even salmon. You can't cook it all the way. You got to cook it. I saw someone that was cooking it for 45 minutes and I almost died going, oh my God. That's like a sin against humanity. I want to make my own crimes against humanity cards, and it'll be cooking errors.
Oh, so smart.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Yeah.
I think you can sell that.
Yeah.
I need to contact Milton Bradley about that. Yeah. But any of my seafood dishes, if you've ever wanted to cook seafood, one of the simplest, if you have access to fresh clams, one of the simplest meals you'll ever prepare is clams and linguine. Give me 12 minutes and I'll give you clams and linguine. Okay.
Wow.
And that's only because it takes the pasta I use. It takes 11 minutes to cook the pasta. So that's why I'm saying, drain it, serve it. But the clams, the biggest effort that you have in making clams and linguine is making sure they're clean. So, I will rinse them for about a half an hour. I'll let them soak. I'll dump it. I'll rinse them. I'll let it soak. I'll dump it just to get the sand and the grit out of it. That's all. But yeah, you saute olive oil, chopped garlic, a little crushed red pepper, saute the garlic for about 30 seconds, put the clams in, cover it, or fresh chopped basil, cover it, and then just let them steam open for about 8 minutes until they all open. The broth that the clams make is amazing. And then if you want to add a little other seasoning to it, fresh chopped parsley or a little granulated onion or garlic, you can, and just serve it over linguine. And it's just amazing. It's a restaurant quality meal that you'll make faster than getting in a car and driving to the local to the local fast food store. It's just amazing at half the cost, if that, of going out to eat.
Because we are landlocked here.
Right.
We do see clams and mussels that are sitting in those tubs in the grocery store. Is that something that you would say, oh yeah, sure, do it with that and it'll be good? Or should I just wait until I, run away to the ocean someday when I retire?
No, because and our local grocery store has wonderful clams and mussels. Okay, they're generally going to be all farm raised at that point, which is okay. So that's not a bad option. When they're fresher, they're full of liquid. They call it actually liquor. They're full of it, and and they'll make a better broth.
So they open as you cook them.
Yes, when clams open, they're cooked. When you get the bag from the grocery store, they are open, throw them away. They are dead. I also have some great clam appetizers. I make clam casino, which was a favorite of the Jersey Shore, which has got bacon, oregano, onions, peppers, and lots of butter and little breadcrumbs. And you mix it, you pack the clam on top of it, and it's like, heaven.
Yum.
No kidding.
But it gets expensive. But it's not something you're going to eat every day of the week. No. It's something you need to get into your diet too. So you plan ahead, and maybe you have chicken or pasta with vegetables one day to kind of make up for the expense and balance the cost of it.
Right.
And that the splurge is on some really good seafood.
Right.
So farm raised, a lot of times, if it's in the States, if it's in Canada, we have a little more control over it. We have a little more faith in it. But when it's coming from other countries, I want to be sure what I'm eating.
And just when you were talking about the seafood recipe with your clams, we noticed with both of them that you talked about granulated onion.
Right.
And is that like something that's more flavorful in your opinion, or is that like your little tip for instead of fresh onion sometimes?
Oh, no. Fresh onion is always a good choice when you can, but it's just a spice to boost the flavor. So when I had my mise en place set up at the restaurant, all my ingredients that I would make dishes from all night long, and old habits die hard. I had three spices, actually 4 spices that were there on my counter that I would use religiously in many of the dishes. There was black pepper, granulated garlic, and granulated onion. And then I had crushed red pepper. Okay. That was not used anywhere near as much.
So we made chicken marsala kind of 3 different ways. I stuck as closely as I could to the classic chicken marsala recipe on your blog.
Okay.
But instead of mushrooms, because my kids have a big aversion to mushrooms, I used eggplant and sun-dried tomatoes I put in there.
Very nice.
And it was very good. And instead of the heavy cream, just because of the dairy sensitivity, I used sour cream, which worked perfectly well.
Yep.
And we ended up with 2 different types of marsala. Erin bought a bottle and she and Sarah shared it in their recipes. And I had bought a different bottle. And the one I bought, I swear it was like syrup.
Really?
Like so sweet. It was crazy.
Can I comment?
Yeah.
So when I was heating yours up in the pan, my son was also making some food on the stove at the same time. And he said, why does that smell like waffles? Because the smell of it was like
syrup.
It was like a syrup.
Wow,
it
really?
smelled it did. Like I was washing the pan later and I was like, this smells like I made waffles in this pan.
I have never encountered a marsala like that.
It was, what was the brand? It's Speroni Cremova.
Huh. No.
I don't know. My husband actually said, this reminds me of chicken and waffles. That's what he said.
That would have been perfect for that.
Not necessarily a bad thing then, but yeah.
No, it was delicious, but very sweet. I'm not sure I would buy that same wine again.
I would not. And again, a sweet marsala should never be sweet. It's just a different type of nuttiness than the dry marsala. And it's a different little bit of mouthfeel, but it should never be sweet. Now, the one I use when I can find it is Pellegrino. The other one is Crabari. Crabari is about a third of the price of Pellegrino and is not quite as strong, but has that flavor.
I saw the Pellegrino at the store, but I didn't buy it because I think it said dry on the label.
That's okay. They have dry. I mean, if you can't find sweet, dry is fine. I prefer sweet. And sometimes you'll find a Pellegrino that has nothing on it. And in some instances, like I know Florio is one that has an acceptable Marsala. Not my first choice, but it's good. But and again, I ordered a case of Pellegrino because I couldn't find it around here. And I do use so little of it. The cost isn't, I'm not sitting there watching football guzzling a bottle of Pellegrino. So the cost isn't prohibitive.
They did have the Pellegrino at the store. Just a note for us.
Yeah,
we ended up buying for Sarah and I. We did get the Florio.
Oh, Florio's good,
which was okay, and it said Dolce on it, so I assumed it was the sweet one. And then
thanks, Aaron.
But now we know the Pellegrino. I'd like to try that.
Yeah, and again, think of it when you're making, not just when you're making chicken marsala. Think of it when you're making pork chops.
Mm-hmm.
When you're making meatloaf. A nice marsala sauce, and again, if you don't like mushrooms, you can try some spinach, and those sun-dried tomatoes are wonderful. But make a nice little marsala sauce, and you can either thicken it up. You can either make a little slurry with butter and flour, just so that let it cook a little while, so it's a little runny, and then mix that into it.
Yeah. Sarah made the chicken marsala meatballs.
Okay.
I knew both of them were going to make something very close to the traditional one that you had. So I went with your meatball recipe, and then I served it with pasta.
Okay.
And I coated the pasta with the sauce.
Okay.
It was so good.
Oh, good.
I've never had chicken marsala before.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I knew my kids were not going to like it. So I made it for my husband and myself. Okay. So I put the mushrooms in, and I think the mushrooms were key, that flavor. Oh, so good.
It was really good.
It's the earthiness that goes in with the marsala. And then even using different kinds of mushrooms, if you have available, will change it and add more depth to it. So it's kind of an experiment, and this is where you want to go. The one marsala didn't work out. You saw it, and it was okay, but it wasn't what you wanted. So this marsala worked. You tried the meatballs, and then you start to think, well, that sauce was really good. It would be nice with something else.
Yeah.
I don't think Erin has shared what she did with her chicken marsala.
Oh, I did it very similarly to Heather. Mm-hmm. I did it in a cast iron pan.
Okay.
So instead of finishing it up all on the stovetop, after I fired the chicken and the vegetables and made the sauce, then I popped it all back into the oven and let it cook for about 20 minutes. And that made it nice and tender, and the juices. Mm-hmm. I used mushrooms, even though I knew my kids would protest.
Yeah.
As long as the mushroom didn't end up on their plate,
I
wouldn't hear about it.
Okay.
So I also put zucchini in. Mm-hmm. And I would say I put the zucchini in a bit too soon.
It softens.
It softens too quick. And as soon as I threw it in the pan and started cooking it, I was like, maybe I shouldn't have put these in yet.
Yeah.
However, it still all tasted delicious. Yeah. And I over-thickened my sauce a bit because I think I was a little too excited about putting my butter in the flour. And I think I over-floured my butter.
Yeah. Oh, that's
okay. A little bit too excited smushing it into the flour. Anyway.
It's fun, I know.
But now that I learned by going too far, the next time I go to thicken something, I'll maybe hold back just a little bit. But is there anything better than butter to finish it off at the end?
No. You always want to finish a dish with a flavor you can taste. So butter finishing, or if you're serving a pasta dish, if you can find like a really, really good extra virgin olive oil that has some incredible flavors, you don't want to cook it. you want that flavor to just be there pronounced. So,
Yeah.
that's like when you cook, you use okay oil. When you finish, you use the best you can find. And that's the same thing with butter. French cooking is always finishing in butter, or the little bit of cream at the end is just finishing it with it. Or another non-dairy, like you said, you use sour cream. That's great. Greek yogurt. That's great. Anything along those lines is fine. That non-dairy butter, like I said, Earth Balance would probably, I don't think I used it to thicken, but it would probably work really well.
I really liked the recipe. I thought it was great.
Good.
So
Thank you.
it was really fun to find out how many different ways we could adapt it, because we've all got these, different families. We have different methods that we're more comfortable using or whatever. And all the ingredients just, it came together so easy, so good. Yeah, I've been throwing it in to just deglaze the pan here and there when I'm cooking pretty much anything this last week. And it's been, it's such a great flavor. It's really tasty.
And great recipe that you can do it any which way. Like, do it to however suits you. It's fantastic. Yeah.
And then one day I had pepperoni. I threw pepperoni in it, and that really, that was a keeper. That was good.
I would not have thought.
I forgot that. I remember you mentioning that, and I was going to try it, and then it walked out, unfortunately.
That's okay.
Darn
Next time.
That happens to me when I'm cooking. It kind of walks out, and I go,
oh, I was going to do the whatever.
Oh, yeah. I didn't put that thing in here that I was going to do.
Yeah. On that topic, how do you find when you write on the blog and you put your recipes on there, if it's a classic recipe, do you have to adjust it much to make it something that you put your name on? Like, how does that work in terms of, I would say a lot of these recipes would go back so far that nobody really owns it, right?
I think with some of those, it's exactly right. Like making marsala or making a chicken cordon bleu. I don't know who invented it. If I can find it in Wikipedia, I will sometimes mention it. I'm just giving some background on it. If I get a recipe from someone else that I have seen, it'll be inspired by, like when I try to find things to make, like I used to love going to the bookstore. I'd get a big coffee and I just thumb through their magazines, and I would look, men especially, but I am very visual. And I would look at the pictures and go, ooh, pretty. That looks good. And I would take a picture of the finished dish. I might glance at the recipe, but I would never take a picture of the recipe, just the finished dish. And then I would go home and I would recreate it. So at that point, however it's being made is mine, because I don't really remember what they put in it.
So we had something planned, this sort of a rapid fire question for you.
Can we put you on the spot?
Is this the lightning round?
This is the lightning round.
Let's
The
do it.
lightning round.
Sarah, why don't you start us off then?
Okay. Which do you prefer, cooking at home or cooking in your restaurant?
Cooking in my restaurant. Would you like to know why, or just the answer?
Go for it.
Well, I prefer cooking in the restaurant because I have access to a lot more ingredients in one spot. I can get really creative, and I can make a lot more people happy.
That's a great reason.
That's a really good one.
For me, it's all about making people happy with food.
Awesome. Okay, how about finish this sentence? Peanut butter and
Jelly.
Jelly.
I'm sorry.
Classic. He's classic.
Peanut butter,
great.
and not just jelly, but strawberry. And actually preserves,
Yeah.
See, it's not just the plain old. It's
No.
Okay. Very particular.
Yeah.
I like it. All right.
And white bread. It's got to be white bread too, like Wonder Bread kind of white bread.
I agree. I totally am with you there. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Is there a guilty pleasure food? Even though you're a chef and you're eating all over the place, does that McDonald's hamburger still get you? Or
if I do stop at McDonald's, it's going to be a double cheeseburger with extra cheese, and it's going to be 2 of them. Okay. And that is my fast food of choice. If I do go to one, and there is one, and every now and then, if I have not had anything to eat all day and I just have that craving, and I like the bigger ones, but there's just something about that smaller McDonald's bun, and it's soft, and just love it. Just love it. That and we can't keep ice cream in the house because it calls to me in the middle of the night.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well.
In the middle of the night, yes.
Yeah. Uh-huh. They have to develop quieter ice cream, right?
Quieter ice cream, actually.
Yes.
Someone dead or alive, fictional or not, that you want to cook, who you want to cook with.
Who I want to cook with. That's not something anyone has ever asked me. I would love to cook. I would love to cook with my grandmother.
Oh, that's nice.
I would love to cook with my grandmother because when I was too young to really appreciate what she was making and how she was making it, she would feed me as long as I would keep eating.
Oh, yeah.
It was just wonderful.
Those are the best grandmas.
Yep.
Okay. Favorite celebrity chef?
Nigella.
Nigella
was my first love because she is so passionate about how she eats. And
she sure is.
She sure is. I mean, Giada was a pretty face, but Nigella is the whole package. You know, she is just, and she's really good too. She cooks. Yeah. She has some amazing recipes. But I've had enough of Nigella's books and made enough of her stuff that, to trust her recipes. Other than that, Julia Child, the true treasure.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right. And we all love food, but is there one thing that you just won't eat?
I'm not fond of octopus. I'm just, and I do not like calamari. So it's along those lines of it. I will eat it. I have eaten it. I've got this rule. If someone serves it to me because they've made it, I will eat it and try it, just because it'd be rude not to. When I was in Barcelona, I had the best octopus that I think could humanly be possibly made. They serve me, they bring me out this grilled long piece of an octopus arm, and I'm looking at it going, all right, I ate the whole thing. It was so freaking good. I don't know how they seasoned it, how they grilled it. It was tender. It was delicious. So you got to kind of sometimes put those things out of your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you have to face things again I always tell people you need to taste things 3 times. You have to give them a chance and then make your decision. If you don't like it, that's okay. That's okay. You don't have to like everything. It's once you get used to making something, then it's time to get creative, and that's what it's all about. It's simple. Yeah. Use food that you like to eat, and you're going to find more joy in what you prepare and sharing. And nothing is better than sharing it with other people.
Oh, that's fantastic! Thanks so much for being up for the rapid fire fun.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yes.
I had such a great time with you ladies here today. It was a lot of fun.
This was a lot of fun.
We really enjoyed this.
Good.
So just remind our listeners where they can find you.
Okay. I am AskChefDennis.com, and or you can find me on all the social medias as Ask Chef Dennis. I'm not on TikTok. I am, but I don't really do anything there. It's something that's there, but I'm tired. So
we hear you. We hear you.
If I can find a young person to do them for me, maybe. But it's just not in my wheelhouse right now. But yeah, all social medias, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Ask Chef Dennis. If you Google Ask Chef Dennis, I'll come up for pretty much the whole first page, maybe the second. And there's a few other Chef Dennises out there, but I don't know who they are. So
they're a Chef Dennis, but you are the Chef Dennis.
That's right.
That's right. That's right.
This has been a lot of fun. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Bye-bye.
And now for the fine print. We at Three Kitchens gratefully acknowledge we are telling these stories in the traditional territories of the Treaty 7 nations in southern Alberta and the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. We honor the rich tradition of oral storytellers on this land who have come before us. You can find pictures and recipe links on Instagram and Facebook at Three Kitchens Podcast. If you like and subscribe on your podcast player, that helps more people find us.